Sup nerds, ever wanted to be a firefighter? Well, now you can, in Flashpoint. Flashpoint is a cooperative firefighting game where you'll be tasked with saving the lives of the inhabitants of a burning building. You'll be moving around using your action points to put out the fire, to uncover people, to carry them out, trying to work with your team to make sure that you guys can save everyone before this building crumbles. At the beginning of the game, every player will choose a special player power, which will give them something unique that to keep the game fresh, and everybody will be given an action card that shows you all the different actions that you can use, and on the other side it shows you all the different things you do on your turn. Unless otherwise noted on your special player, you're going to have 4 action points to spend, and you're going to spend them to move, you're going to spend them to fight the fires and actually put them out. You can also use them to open doors and to drive the fire truck or the ambulance around. Using all these actions wisely to their best benefit and at the most opportune time is how you will work together to fight this fire. One really cool thing about the action points in this game is if you don't spend them, you can save them for your next turn. You just get these saved action points that you put on your card to denote that you have more actions to take. The object of the game is to save 7 people. There are these points of interest, which have usually people on the other side. Sometimes they are blank spaces, sometimes they're dogs, which for the purpose of the game counts as saving a person. After every turn, you're going to roll 2 dice to see where more fire pops up. So you roll the 2 dice, there's a d6 and a d8. This is one big grid, so you can just look at those numbers and figure out where it is. When you add a fire token, first you go to add smoke. If there's already smoke there, that smoke becomes fire. If the spot is empty and you go and place your smoke, if it's adjacent to fire, it becomes fire. If you go to place the smoke token and there's already fire there, it causes an explosion, and then fire will shoot in both directions, and it'll start damaging walls, and that's really bad because if you ever run out of damage tokens because you've done enough damage to the walls, then the house collapses and you lose the game. Once you've got a good feel for the game, you can start to play with the more advanced modes, which I guess technically playing with the characters is advanced, but also there's hot spots where every time there's one of those explosions, you put down a hot spot, and then that stays on there permanently. You can never remove a hotspot token. If you, on a later turn, roll that spot again, you cause the flare up, and then you roll for fire again. So it's just, the fire's so intense that it just spreads faster and faster. This game is very comparable to Pandemic. Instead of fighting diseases, you're fighting fires, and it feels a little more close to home, because it just feels like something that, you see more often. You don't see pandemics every day. You see fires way more often, especially if you're starting them. The cooperativeness definitely shines in this game. You definitely have to work together to try and think of a solid plan, but there's constantly going to be a wrench thrown in it because you can't really forecast what the fire is going to do. You can kind of hope, but with a roll of the dice, like anything can happen. The fire could be over here, and it's going to jump over there and over here, and you're running around like crazy trying to put it out. My favorite thing to use is the fire truck. You can aim at a quadrant, and when you roll the dice, it'll hit a spot and splash to all the adjacent spots. So you can put out a lot of fire really quickly. Whenever I'm playing with newer players, I try and give one player the driver because they get to use that action for 2 points instead of 4. So you can shoot the water gun twice in a turn and really help put out fires quickly. You definitely need to use your special power as best as you can. If you're really good at putting out fires, like moving around and putting them out for cheaper, then you should do that. If you're really good at carrying people, some of the firefighters can carry them cheaper, so it doesn't cost as much to move with them. Make sure that person is doing that. You definitely want to stick to your strong suit. You can definitely sway from that and do other things, but you want to try and stick to that if you can. Comparing this to other co-op games, you're definitely going to put this up against Pandemic. To me, this game may actually be a little bit better than Pandemic just because of the subject matter. Like Pandemic, I mean, yeah, you're saving the world, but this, you're saving a house, you're saving cats, you're saving dogs, you're saving old people. That's just as heroic. And I feel like the cooperativeness in here, you can really see it a lot more than in Pandemic. It's like, you're just a little speck in an entire world, and you're like, okay, I'm moving over here, and I'm going to trade you cards and stuff. In here, it's, you're much more zoned in. You can see what you're doing. There's a lot of detail and the houses that you're in. There's a lot more to this game. Being the fact that there's 2 boards right out of the box, you have 2 completely different houses to play in. You have tons of different characters to play as to really change up your game. And then once you've mastered those, there's a lot more to play. You got Extreme Danger expansion, Dangerous Waters, you got the second story, Urban Structures, Honor and Duty. You got those are all just board expansions. And then you got this little cool one, the Veteran Dog and the Veteran and the Rescue Dog. Who wouldn't want to play as a dog? And Tragic Events, which is their newest expansion, which will be in a later video. But there's a ton of stuff here. Like you could play this game forever, like with so many different scenarios. I guess I also like that the game isn't as timed as Pandemic. Like once that deck runs out in Pandemic, the game's over. In this game, you can kind of just outlast the fire for a long time, or you could lose really quickly, depending on how crazy the fire gets out of control or how many people die. Because, if all of your points of interest are burning up, then people are dying and you're losing the game. I do like dice rolling too, so I guess that kind of adds to it. There's a little more luck when you're rolling these dice. Definitely randomness, definitely, luck, but there's a lot of skill and definitely a lot of pre-planning, and, being able to save your actions from turn to turn is definitely a game changer, because you could move one space, I'm going to bank 3 actions. Next turn, I'm going to have a really baller turn, but take 7 actions. I'm going to run, open this door, grab this old lady, and, get back out a little bit. Like, it's a lot of fun. If you like co-op games, I highly recommend this game. It's a slam dunk. Like this, I can see why this game has so many expansions. If you're really good at cooperative games, you probably will want another expansion pretty soon, but there's definitely enough meat in just the base game and with the advanced rules that will keep your attention. I don't really have any complaints about this game. I think all the tokens are nice and thick. The minis are really cool. They're in different colors, so if you ever paint them up, they're going to be hard to differentiate because they all have the same model. So, I guess that could be a negative, that you don't have unique sculpts. But I think they're really cool. Yeah, this is a really fun game. I'll have a link in the description box down below where you can get yourself a copy. And while you're down there, subscribe to our channel so you'll never be bored.